What's the word, everybody? Ryan the Mighty Quinn here, the Cornerman _MMA, UFC Vegas 65 in the books. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. A lot of talking points today that we're going to go over, so please comment. Let me know what you think. If you got any questions, love to answer further. You're going to see me referring to my talking points a lot, actually, because there's a lot of stuff I don't want to miss. I don't have it down like everybody else. I got to write it down on scrap paper. I'm like Mick Foley. When Mick Foley wrote his book, he wrote it on all loose leaf paper. That's kind of how I do it because I got to refer to it quick. But yeah, UFC Vegas. So unfortunately, Derek Lewis versus Sergey Spivak got canceled. That really, really sucks. I know everyone was looking forward to that. Nobody wants to miss a Derek Lewis fight, but he got cleared. Hopefully, they run that one back. There's a couple of fights in December. Maybe they could slip on there. Who knows? But I'm sure we'll see that soon. A couple of tough decisions, a couple of really tough decisions. I thought that Mariana Moroz, I thought she beat Jennifer Maia. I thought that she was bringing the fight moving forward with cage control or controlling distance as well as significant strikes landed that were damaging. The judges decided that they were going to score volume of punches last night. That's what it looked like with that fight. And then Miles Johns fight, I thought he won that fight. I was surprised he got all 3 rounds by one judge, I believe that was. But I thought he won that fight pretty handily. And, of course, the developing story with his coach, James Krause, who I know James pretty well over the years we trained. And I don't see him, impeding any bad will towards the sport or his team. And I hope that he gets his name cleared through this process. I'm sure it's a struggle, James. We're with you, bro. I hope things turn out okay. Dicey slope. But yeah, all right. Let's get to the main event. Uh, uh, Kennedy, and I don't want to mess his name up. Kennedy Nzechukwu. Now, I thought that Ion Cutelaba, he had a lot of openings, but he kind of his wrestling made a lot of mistakes. His wrestling failed him last night. That's what I have. That's what keeps coming to mind. He made some pretty big wrestling mistakes. That one of which in the first round stopped him from getting the finish, stopped him from doing more damage. The second one, which led to him getting finished in the second round. He made 2 of the biggest wrestling no-nos in mixed martial arts last night that people got to get away from. Now, it's easier said than done. The only reason why I recognize these and am so sensitive to these is because I made these mistakes over my whole career. I've made these mistakes that led to losses, unfortunately. So I noticed them more than the average bear because I had to clean them up myself. He wrestled Greco-Roman for, I believe they said 12 years before mixed martial arts. So you can't just throw that behind you. That is in your head, that wrestling. That is instinctual, and it's just, you got to get there. But of course, you got to get away from that. I know me, like I wrestled, let's see, how many years? Yeah, I wrestled about 8 years before I went into mixed martial arts. I didn't clean up those bad habits until way later in my career. But when I was at the level, I knew to stay away from them. I was disciplined enough. I was now a mixed martial artist. I always say, like, people like myself, Ion Cutelaba, we start out as wrestlers doing mixed martial arts, and then we turn into mixed martial artists that uses our wrestling. That's what he needs to do a little bit more of. Uh, uh, to win fights like that he was in last night that I didn't see. Now, let's go over that first mistake. He had a great first round. Clearly, and I understand that the game plan is to wrestle against this taller, more fearful striker. Clearly, totally get it. But he landed 2 thick right hands with a big uppercut and then that got Kennedy against the fence. And then he just went for the clinch work. I'm like, oh my God. When you land thudding punches like that, instead of a clinch, you got to go left hook, right hook. You got to throw the looping punches to try to get the finish. Body shots, try to do that damage there. That's where you make your bones now. Because I see Tim Kennedy. Kennedy was covered up against the fence. He was stunned. You got to do your work there. I know the game plan is to wrestle, like I said, but now in this situation, we're throwing that out the window. We're scoring with strikes, punches, knees. We're trying to get that finish. I actually thought he could have gotten the finish there had he stuck with that. He's very strong. He's got those heavy hands from wrestling, and he could have finished. He didn't do that. He ended up having a pretty good first round anyway, getting the takedown, riding out and grinding out Kennedy. Now, come the second round, both fighters are going. That thunderous knee that Kennedy landed. I want to get his last name right, but I never do. Nzechukwu. Please correct me in the comments. People call me Brian my whole life, so I want to make sure I get people's names right. I always screw them up. So now we're at distance. Ion Cutelaba still wants to go to the ground. Clearly, that's the game plan. I don't blame him. I would have done that too. Now, what I would have done differently, he was just shooting, not setting anything up. That is why that knee came up so clean from the taller fighter to the shorter fighter trying to cover distance. Okay? He didn't throw any punches or feints before he went for that takedown. So he's just coming like this. He's begging for a knee. That's where that knee came from. Then he kind of did it again, which led to the finish. But ultimately, that first knee is what led to what would be the demise of the fight. Now, how do you avoid that? What should have he done? You got to throw those punches. You got to. What do the punches do? Obviously, not only does it get the fighter, your opponent, thinking of stuff up top, it gets their hands away from their legs. All right, it gets that defense away from their legs, and it gets the knee away because if they're like this, they're not in that loaded knee position for that for to land that knee. So they're usually upright like this, or they're covering like this. They're not in position to land a powerful knee. You'll be able to shoot through it. Other than punches, he's got to throw feints to cover the distance. Got to throw feints to cover the distance. Like this, feint punch, get closer, cover that distance against the taller, longer, rangier striker. Okay, he didn't do any of that. He just shot, arms out, and that's what led to the devastating knee. It really sucks seeing that. I think Ion Cutelaba was a good fighter. I believe this is his second loss in a row, so he probably has to win one more. He probably has to win his next one before things start looking hairy for him with the UFC. I like watching him. I know he's entertaining with the weigh-ins. He didn't do anything this last weigh-in, but we'll see. The Hulk, right? But anyway, you wrestlers that are watching this, please keep that in mind, everything I just went over you. The first thing you have to learn is what I went over for the second mistake he made. You got to use boxing to set up your takedowns. This is not at wrestling. You're not in your wrestling stance. You can't club the head, but you can't just start here. They're not standing in front of you. You got to cover that distance and get that distance that you want to shoot. That's on you in mixed martial arts. You got to use that boxing. This is not, mixed martial arts, boxing to wrestling. You got to use two styles. You got to get that down. So wrestlers, I really highly recommend you get your feints down as well to cover that distance. That helped me a lot with my career. I take down everybody in mixed martial arts. You can ask anybody in American Top Team that. And it's because of my jabs, because of my feints, because of my head movement. That's another thing. Cutelaba could have used his head movement, moved his heads, make it ugly with his boxing on the way in to get that last takedown, or even against the fence to create different angles in that first mistake. So wrestlers, you got to get that down. How do you close the distance with your hands, with your boxing? The other one, get in your mind, wrestlers, that when a finish presents itself, so you got a person rocked against the fence, the wrestling is later now. We're trying to finish. We're trying to throw those kicks, knees, punches. We're now kickboxing, boxing to try to get that finish. Very important, okay? This is where you become a disciplined mixed martial artist outside of your disciplined wrestling. Take that and to the bank, please. Let me know if you have any questions. Be willing to do a video on that as well. Like I went over before, I mentioned briefly, Greco-Roman was believed to be the better style of wrestling for mixed martial arts, the best style. There's still argument there. Because, there's a lot more clinch work. You're standing upright because of the striking. Totally makes sense. Against the fence with the clinch work. When this was said, Randy Couture, Dan Henderson, Matt Lindland, Chael kind of were, dominating mixed martial arts. And they were clearly using that dirty boxing that Greco presents. So, but now, now you see there's a lot of free and folk style wrestlers. You got Bo Nickel in there, Johnny Eblin, who else? John Jones. You see that, wrestling works, all wrestling. Now, I felt Ariel Helwani said something pretty ignorant in regards to the fight. He was comparing this stoppage to last week's stoppage with Alexi with Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya. He said 15 seconds went by before you called this finish. on Cutelaba. We don't count seconds. This is not a seconds game, Ariel. This is a damage game, okay? In that 10-second split with Izzy and Alex, I think there was like 15 power shots landed on Izzy. He had to look. That's what you got to count. Where in this 15 seconds that you were looking at, Ariel, there might have been 5 or 6 where Cutelaba was still with it. I think there was only 2 landed where Cutelaba was rolling against the fence. Plus, there was different referees. So, come on, you know better than that. But either way, guys, that's what I got. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thanksgiving week coming up, so we got a couple of videos I'm going to be doing over the few days to present. If there's a video that you guys would like to see, any questions you like what's going on in MMA, please let me know. Talk to you.